independent drop-down lists like this, where you choose a country and magically the next drop-down list only displays the states for that country, used to be laborious to set up and maintain. But now that we have dynamic array formulas, we can make them dynamic so they automatically grow with your data. In this video, I'm going to show you two approaches, one that's relatively straightforward but has some limitations, and one that overcomes these limitations using a trick that is mind-blowing. You can download the example file from the link in the video description and follow along. Here I have a list of my countries and regions, which are formatted in an Excel table, and this is the first step in enabling my drop-down lists to dynamically update. To format your data in a table, go to the Insert tab and then click on the table icon, or you can use a keyboard shortcut Ctrl+T. Now you can see the icon is grayed out, and that's because my data is already formatted in a table called TBL regions. Now the first approach is going to use the unique function to extract an array of countries, and I need the countries to spill across the columns, so I'm going to wrap it in the transpose function, and I'd like them sorted, so we'll also wrap it in sort, and then we'll use unique to extract a list of the countries. Notice it's put in my table structured references, and that way if any new countries are added to this table, my formula here is automatically going to pick them up. So close my parentheses on unique, sort and transpose, press enter, and there's my 3 countries. Next, I'm going to use the filter function to extract my regions where the country equals the country in row 4. Now you might be tempted to use the hash sign here to reference the spilled array, but let me close parentheses. You'll see it returns an error, and that's because filter is trying to spill down and across, and this is known as the array of arrays limitation. So filter can't spill in 2 directions. We'll get rid of the hash, and then I'm going to use the if empty argument to return a blank if filter returns no results. So it's spilled my results for Australia. Let me copy the formula, and then I'm going to copy it across to column P. I'm just allowing for more countries to be added to my table. And because we used the if blank argument, filter is simply hidden if there's no countries in row 4. So now I have my list of countries and their respective regions. I can set up my data validation. First, select the cells, and then on the Data tab of the ribbon, Data Validation. Here I want a list, and the source for my countries is going to be my cell here, and I want to reference the spilled array so that if any new countries are added, it'll automatically pick them up in my drop-down list. Click OK, and then if we test it out, you can see Australia, UK and USA are all available. Next, I'm going to use XLOOKUP to return the regions. I'm just going to type it in here so we can see how it evaluates. So what are we looking up? The value in column B. Where are we looking it up? In this row of values here. And I'm going to allow for growth and F4 to absolute. Now again, you might be tempted to replace this with the hash spilled array operator, but it won't work here. So we're going to reference out to column P, allowing for growth. And what are we returning? Well, the return array could vary in size. You can see Australia has 7 regions in its list, the UK has 6, and so on. So what we can do here is reference just the first result in each spilled array, F4 to absolute, close parentheses on XLOOKUP, and then we're going to add the spilled array operator, and that will allow XLOOKUP to spill the results. So that's how our XLOOKUP works. If I change the country here, it now spills the UK regions, and so on. So all I need to do is copy this formula, and I'll delete the results there. Select the cells I want my data validation in, create a new data validation rule that's based on a list, and my source is going to be my XLOOKUP. Click OK, and now we get US regions. Let's choose UK and test it out. Correctly returns the UK counties, and for Australia, we get the states. Perfect. And let's say we add a new country to our table for Japan. You can see Japan is now in my list. Let's check if it's in the data validation list. There it is. Let's check the regions. There they are. So you can see it's automatically available for me to work with. Of course, you typically keep your workings here on another sheet hidden away. I've just kept them on the same sheet so that we can follow along easily. Now, while this solution works, it does require you to copy the filter formula across many columns in anticipation of the number of countries you expect to have added to the table. And then, what if you want to add cities to this table, and therefore a third dependent data validation list? That's where the next approach is ideal. Let's take a look. Here, I don't need a separate unique list of the countries. Instead, I can directly reference the country column of the table if it's on the same sheet as my data validation lists. But let's assume you'll hide this table away on another sheet. In that case, I'm going to set up a defined name for my list of countries. So with them selected on the Formulas tab, define name. I'm going to call them countries, and you can see it refers to the regions table country column. Click OK. Now I can set up my data validation, so selecting my cells on the Data tab, Data Validation. Here I want a list, and the source is going to be the name I just set up. If you can't remember the name, press F3, brings up the list of names you have, click OK, and OK, and let's test it out. There's my list. Notice it doesn't include duplicates. It automatically just gives you a unique list, which is super handy. And of course, if any new countries get added to the table, it will automatically include it. Now, to extract the regions for the dependent data validation list, this formula is going to leverage the cell function. Let's type it in here and I'll show you how it works. So the cell function returns information about the cell. I want it to return the address. So I'll tab to insert address. Now it's going to return the address of the last cell that's edited. I'll press tab and you can see the last cell that was edited is the cell I typed my cell function into. We can leverage this. For example, let's change the selection here to USA, and now the last cell edited is my country. And I can use this functionality to look up the regions for the country in the cell returned by the cell function. Let's write the formula over here. So equals filter. Again, of course, we're going to filter the regions where the country equals the country in the last cell edited. So I can't just type cell in here. I have to first wrap it in the indirect function, and then cell, address, close cell, close indirect. And then in the if empty, I'm going to say choose a country first. Close double quotes, close parentheses on filter, and press tab. Now it gives me a circular reference error, and that's because it's referencing itself, because the last cell edited is cell H4 where this filter formula is. That's okay, it doesn't matter if it returns an error at this point. So press enter and we get a 0. That's all right. Let's go and delete this cell formula here. So you can see now it's telling me to choose a country first. Let's edit this to trigger the cell function. And you can see now it returns the states for Australia. So let's insert the drop-down list. With the cells selected, data validation, we want a list, and the source is going to be the cell containing my filter function and the hash sign to return the spilled array. Click OK, and now I can select my state. Let's go down to the next one. We'll choose UK, and now we have the UK counties. Let's go back and change this one to USA, and now I have the US states. While I'd like to take the credit for that incredible cell function trick, I need to give a shout out to Peter Bartholomew who shared it with me. It's pretty cool. And with this technique, I can also add another level for the cities. For example, here we have Sydney. And if we look at the formula for the third level, you can see it's almost identical to the level 2 formula. The only difference being is now I'm filtering the cities based on the region, whereas here I was filtering the regions based on the country matching. Now, you'll notice in my table, I only have one city per region. If you have multiple cities per region, then you're going to have your regions repeated, in which case you'll need to add unique to this formula to remove any duplicates. It gives me an error there, but as soon as I select an item here, you can see it evaluates again. Now this formula is dependent on the last edited cell being the drop-down list that's up one level. For example, if I wanted to go back here and change Colorado to something else, I first have to select this cell again, select USA to trigger the formula to calculate, and then I have my list. whereas an alternate option is the double-click method. For example, here, instead of Kent, I wanted a different region. I can double-click in the cell, click on the drop-down, and it evaluates the formula. I can select my state, and then maybe we want to edit Colorado here, double-click, click on the drop-down, and now I can select Alaska. Now, because the last cell being edited is the same cell as the drop-down, we need to modify the formula slightly. So we can see here that we've added offset. So offset takes the cell address returned by the cell function, and it moves the reference to the left by 1. So if this cell is the cell being edited, it references the cell to the left, which is B6. So when I click on the drop-down, the formula is looking up the country cell. Now don't forget, you can download this file with all the different options from the link in the video description. Now, the filter function example in this video is fairly straightforward, except for the clever cell function trick. However, you should definitely watch this in-depth filter function video next, where I dive into more advanced techniques and uncover some lesser known tricks. I'll see you there.